A leading Canadian educator, Dr. Hinds is a central figure in the School of Community and Health Studies at Centennial College in Scarborough, Canada. When she talks about leadership, especially as regards developing our leaders of tomorrow, Dr. Hinds emphasizes something we don't often hear: the need to balance your notion of leadership with the practice of service. In this episode, host Melanie Taddeo and Dr. Hinds share insights about some of the key tenets of leadership, namely, that leadership is about being engaged in the community. And a true leader, Dr. Hinds explains, is someone who truly knows how to listen. Sometimes leadership is evident through quietness. There aren't enough minutes in this introduction to convey just how much you'll learn and take away from this installment of Leaders of Tomorrow. So we encourage you to listen, enjoy, and reach out to us anytime to leave a comment or ask a question.
Good day and welcome to Connect for Life, the podcast. I am so thrilled to be joined by Dr. Donna Hinds. Dr. Hinds, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself today?
So I am Dr. Hinds. I am an educator. I teach at Centennial College in the social service worker program. I have been teaching this year for 17 years. I have a bachelor and a master's in social work from York University and a doctor of education from Grand Canyon University. I teach from an anti-oppressive transformational leadership stance in my everyday and also from a social justice perspective in my everyday activities.
Wonderful. And what made you want to become a teacher or an educator?
Um, I do have a love for social work, and I have a love for disseminating knowledge. And so teaching is where I blossom and where I'm able to impart knowledge and where I'm able to really impact my student to be transformational leaders of tomorrow. So as they go out into the community to work with the marginalized, they're able to work from a place of anti-oppressive stance and a place of empathy and a place of understanding that their work as social service worker matter within the landscape of the society to which we are in.
Wonderful. And the theme of this season is Leaders for Tomorrow. And I thought, what a
Yes.
great interview to start off with a leader in her own right. And Dr. Hinds, I'm going to ask you, what is
Mhm.
your definition of leadership?
Well, from my perspective, leadership is about influence, and influence is important. Influence, integrity, and impact. And it is not about titles. It is about how we show up every day for people. And my approach to leadership is from an anti-oppressive and a transformational perspective, which means that I focus on really empowering my student on a daily basis and empowering the people that I meet for change. And it is also about dismantling barriers and inspiring growth and creating more equitable spaces where everyone can thrive within the context. I believe leadership is about transformational change.
So well said. But
Yes.
we know that women leaders are far and few between. We're getting
hmm
better. However, can you talk a little bit about what your journey as a woman leader has been like?
Well, my journey as a woman leader has been, I would say, complex. For me as a woman of color, um, often rooms were not, I was not expected to enter certain room. And so for me, I believe because I believe in myself and that I matter and that I have something to say when I enter the room. I really don't look at the fact that I'm the only one in the room, but I also look at the person who nods to me. If that person nods, then I know I have an ally in the room. And so for me, as a woman leader, I make sure that I know who I am, because knowing who I am is really important when you enter a room. And so I don't say I cannot. I always say that I can. And it is important for me that when I enter a room, I sit in my knowledge that I have attained. And also I sit in the authority that I have something to say and that what I say matter. And that me sitting around the table brings value and also bring diverse perspective based on where I'm coming from.
That's beautiful. Now, we always hear there's barriers and challenges for any leader, but can
Mhm.
you share some of the barriers and challenges you've faced as a woman as in leadership, whether it's an educational organization or outside in the community?
Let me first say from my educational perspective, I think some of the challenges that I face as a Black woman with an accent, I find often microaggression is one, uh, and also because you have an accent, often people sometimes think you're not smart. And so those are some of the challenges that I have to deal with sometimes. But I do not make that deter me, because I'm dealing with people and people are complex. And so often my knowledge and the way that I conduct and do business speaks for me along the way. So those conflicts, I use them as a learning tool. And also to really shape the way how I deal with people, that differences doesn't have to hurt. Differences bring value, and it brings um this not otherness, but it brings this inclusivity. And so even though I encounter challenge, I often use it as a way not to deter me, but as a way, as a stepping stone to move forward to do the work that I do. Why? Because I can't afford to make those challenges deter me from making changes to the group that I want to serve and to the people that I want to serve. So I use those challenges as a stepping stone.
And I love the way that you are sharing how you use them as an opportunity rather than a challenge. And
Hmm.
you're right, we're going to meet people with diverse perspectives that may have
Yes,
biases, and we can't let our journeys be detoured because of that, but we need to embrace it and move forward and keep going.
that is true.
Now, with these challenges, because we know over the years, I guess there's been a way that, oh, women perhaps aren't going to be good leaders because they're too nurturing or too kind, or all those misconceptions that obviously are untrue. And you've proven
Mm.
those, but we can be both.
Yes.
We can be leaders and we can be nurturing and kind, but in
Hmm.
different perspectives. But what would you say are the areas of growth that we've seen when women leaders stepped into the roles and have changed leadership?
From my perspective, I think women leaders bring a broad perspective to the table. They are not just nurturing, they have an understanding of people. And I would say not many women leaders lead from an egotistical place. But I think because women have an understanding that they were not seen as leaders when they enter the room, they have an understanding how to read the room, how to strategize, and how to implement change, and how to ensure that those changes are 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 not just on paper, but to manifest those changes to make sure that they come alive. And I think women leaders have made tremendous strides in organizational change and in the world to which we are in. Women plays a pivotal role, especially women leader. They play a pivotal role in making sure organizational structures are sound and that policies and processes are implemented that will bring about change for the people to which they lead and to the broader community at large to which those services should impact.
Absolutely. So well said. I
Thank you.
find also that a lot of women leaders are willing to collaborate and really
Mhm.
to tap on their colleagues to say, what do you think about this, and let's do it together,
Mhm.
whereas sometimes other opportunities don't necessarily come up. Can you share a time where you've been able to collaborate on things to help make change?
I've done a lot, and so in the work that I do as a professor, when there are organizational change in programs, it is vital that we collaborate with other programs to make sure those changes are impact. Currently, we're going through changes, and I think one of the ways that I've worked with other um, programs is by facilitating change through collaboration, through designing of programs, and to really bringing my voice to the table and to listening to their voice too. So at the ending of the day, we are all equally heard, and that we're all our voices and our ideas are equally shared within those contexts. So teamwork is pivotal, I believe, if we're gonna collaborate. And it's in this context of teamwork, I think while I bring my authentic self, it is important to ensure that everyone walk away feeling that we have done the work that we should do as a team to make changes in the organization. And so in this season, I'm collaborating and changing our program in creating new courses. And I have been doing that, and I think it's going well.
Wonderful. And I love how you're talking about transformation, because I think as we grow as human beings, we are transforming continuously. But as an
Mhm.
educator, how do you guide the students to really embrace a transformation? And what advice do you give them to become leaders?
I really love to work and teach from a transformational stance, to include that in my work, because we have students coming in the program, and they do not come in empty. They come in with their own knowledge and their own understanding. And there's often behaviors that need to change if we're working with diverse people. And I often said to my student that in order to change, the mindset is important to change. In order to transformate, it means then that within the transformational process, it brings pain. Why? Because to transform, it means one has to die, and I use the word die here, to die to old self, to die to old habits, to die to old behaviors that will prevent growth. And so transformation requires then in this context that the mindset is changed. And if the mindset is changed, the heart is changed, then the attitude is changed, then the way how we see the world and our onset of how we see people also change. And so transformation is pivotal in this context, that it requires then that we not only learn from a theoretical stance, but that we apply those learning and put them in practice. So I encourage my student to learn, to read, to get to know diverse culture, people, and places, because we can never transform within the box. We can try to transform within the box, but we become, I would say, not diverse. But when we transform outside of the box, understanding and learning other culture and understanding other people, then we're able to understand ourselves as we learn and we grow within the context of transformational of learning and change.
I'm sitting here wishing I had professors like you when I was in school, because that is so important. And
Yes.
it's interesting. And I think, as times have changed,
Hmm.
we have understood the importance of having diverse perspectives at the table.
Hmm.
And what has that journey been like for you to witness? Because I'm sure you've seen the same things I have.
Hmm. I think in sitting at tables to see what diversity can do, it's so important. Diversity brings new perspective. And oftentimes, I think at some point, as human beings, we're afraid of change. But I think diversity brings a wide range of perspective to the table, a wide range of ideas, not just from my own knowing, but from other knowing and doing within the context of sitting around the table. The idea becomes more rich, becomes diversified, it becomes more amplified, not in a negative way, but in a positive way, where um, every idea counts and every idea works within this symbiotic kind of a movement, within this movement that brings about diverse idea, diverse perspective in this context. So I think sitting around the table, I've seen the value in diversity and I see what it does. And I think a part of change can never be one way. It cannot, it has to be movable and it has to be, I wouldn't say just fluid, but I think it must be able to be flexible within the context that it is willing then to listen to diverse voice, diverse perspective in order to hear how to deal with the marginalized and how to deal with others within its context.
That's beautiful. That's so true.
Thank you.
Now, there are skill sets that people that are very effective leaders have, and I know you possess many of these, but what essential skills do you think every leader should really focus on?
I think from my perspective, it's listening is key because if we do not pay keen attention to deep listening, I think we miss points that we should hear. And we're in a fast paced kind of a society, and I think, and I believe that listening is paramount. And also, to in leadership, quietness is important. And that sounds strange, but I believe as a leader in quiet times, one is able to reflect on who they are as a leader. Are they enacting change? Are they impactful? And are they connecting with people in such a way that they will buy into the change? And I think that within the context of quiet times, that is important for a leader to have. While listening is important, quietness is important, and leading also from a place of justice. And I use the word justice, to be just as a leader. And in this context, what I mean, are you a fair leader? Are you a balanced leader? And so that is important.
Definitely. And I think sometimes people think of leaders as what they're saying, how much talking they're doing. But in fact, you're right.
No,
It's the quiet times that they're most impactful, the listening and the reflection. And absolutely, justice is vital because I think
yes.
a lot of times, again, this is where that assumptions and pre, I guess, what people in their minds think a leader
Mm-hmm,
looks like or sounds like
mm-hmm,
is somebody of affluence, somebody that
mm-hmm.
really knows how to talk well and says the right things, but the actions also speak volumes and the quiet reflection as well. So thank you for sharing that, Dr. Hinds.
You're most welcome.
Now, I'm curious. We're talking about
Mm-hmm,
leaders for tomorrow. What type of
mm-hmm.
leaders do we need for the future?
That's really, may I say this is I would say this is a loaded, really loaded question
Mhm.
because we really need leaders of tomorrow who has a heart for people. They are social justice oriented, and they demonstrate a dignity and an integrity that really calls people to the table. And that is important. We need leaders who are effective, who really have a understanding of to model community engagement, uh, to really function in such a way that they can enact change. And that is important.
And why do you feel that's important?
It is important because if we take a look at the world, to which we are in now. The world is in diverse turmoil and an upheaval globally. And we need leaders who are sound, not just in their word, but in their action. Because a leader with words and no action really put fuel to the fire, but can never out the fire. And so I think it is important that we have leaders who can navigate complex and with compassion and challenge system that no longer serves people. We need leaders for tomorrow who are builders of bridges and that they are change makers within the context of the society which we lead. We need more leaders who are bridge builders and chain makers for tomorrow.
Wonderful and well said. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now, sometimes I've had amazing mentors in my life that have helped me with
Mhm.
my leadership journey. Did you have a mentor? And if so, could you tell us a little bit about them?
I have a mentor, one of my professor, um, Dr. Nada um, was a mentor to me when I was in both my bachelor and my master's year at York University, and she mentored me, and through her as also a woman of color, and the context of her work and the grace in which she, Professor Dr. Raza, really exemplified leadership. I was able to learn from her and also grow from her. And also, when I was doing my doctoral program, my dissertation chair was really someone who pushed me beyond what I thought I could do. And so he pushed me. And so in this context, I've had two great mentors that have really helped me push beyond boundaries in my academic career.
So glad to hear this. And I
Thank you.
feel mentors are so important for leaders to have. Even if you're a leader, you still need mentors because we don't know everything.
Yes.
And this is something I encourage everybody that I am working with is, do you have a mentor? Because you learn so much. And they can be many. There's not just be one or two, but many in
Yes.
different
Yes.
areas. Yeah.
Yes.
What advice can you give young people that are just starting on their leadership journeys?
To be curious, I think young leaders need to be curious as to why they want to do change. I think reading is paramount, and self-confidence is one, and believing in oneself is important for a young leader. And to be a future leader, I would say they need to engage in community engagement and need to really go out to build and to see what it is to engage within the community, because they can't develop themselves in silo. They need to go out into their community to volunteer and to build the necessary skills that they need. And I think that is important. And it is important also for our young leaders is that to think in terms that they can, and also for us who are adults, we need to encourage them so that they can step into leadership role when they feel seen and they're supported and they feel safe to try. And it's important that we give them real opportunities and mentorship and an environment where their ideas matter. And also to for us as leaders who are in leadership position, when they see how we lead and our vulnerability and the way we lead with strength, it will also teach them how to really look at system, to look at themselves, and to see how they position themselves within the context of the society. So I think it's important for us to encourage our leaders, our young leaders, to really aspire to be all that they can be.
Absolutely great advice.
Mhm.
And as a leader in the educational institutions sector, I'm going to call it,
Yes.
What impact do you have and other leaders have on policy change? As we're talking about transformation, what
Mhm.
is it important for us as leaders to bring to the table to ensure that what we're putting forward is going to impact those future leaders?
Policy is so important because everything that we do is structured on some form of policy or the other. And I think um, in sitting at the table and enacting policy, we've got to take into consideration, does this piece of policy that we're enacting, does it really work? Will it create more imbalance or more barriers? Or will it create access for those who need access? And so leaders who sit, and I want to say this, that policies are created from folks' values and how they see the world. But around the table as educators, I believe that when we're thinking of education policies, it must be policies that is rooted in measurable outcome, that we see student retention, um, we see greater learning, and we're graduating leaders that will be impactors of tomorrow. Their change agents. The policies must work so that when students graduate, they can really meet the needs of the changing society to which they're going to go out and work in.
Definitely. And I think what you just said encompasses it beautifully because I think sometimes we forget about that measurable piece, and that's
Mhm.
essential.
We'll be back in just a minute. Ten years in the making, Connecting Possibilities, the story of Connect for Life, is Melanie Taddeo's newest publication about the charity she created in 2014.
I'm Melanie Taddeo, the founder of Connect for Life. Connecting Possibilities is a story of growth, leadership, and accessibility. It is the story of Connect for Life.
Available in paperback and EPUB versions globally through all major online retailers.
What can we do to get more women leaders out there? Tangible steps.
From my perspective, I think um, the door needs to be not just ajar, one must be welcome, open, and not just open, but must be welcoming, that women are given the opportunity to thrive, to make mistake, because it is in our mistake that we learn and grow. And so I think the door should be open, and women must be not be limited but be given more opportunity in the education system to become director, become president,
Mhm.
become whatever they think they want to do within those contexts, and also to be given the support. Often as women, we in a patriarchal society, women are seen as lesser, and so the support might not be there. And also I think as women, we must also support other women within the context of the world to which we live in, whether within the context of the world. I think we must support each other when we're in role. And I know that leadership role for women look different depending on the organization. But I think support is really important when we are sitting in roles, and also the space that we make for other women when they come into the organization. Are we making space for them? Are we are we a welcoming door that they can enter in and ask question with not being feeling intimidating that they're there to take over from us, but that we become the place of information, the place of giving, the place of understanding for others who are climbing the ladder, who may face challenges along the way.
Absolutely. And I think,
Yes.
this is something that we as women leaders all would love to see happen because as times change, as women build their confidence and go into different sectors, as you said, it could be a leader in any sector, when those opportunities are welcoming and they
Mhm.
find their people, as we call them, that they've been there, they've done that, they understand what they're going through, not only acquiring mentors but also collaborators and people that working together can do so much.
Mhm. Mhm.
Is there
And that,
anything else about leadership that I haven't covered that you'd like to share? Your experience, anything you'd like to see changed?
well, I think from my perspective, I think as leaders, we need to figure out way to dismantle system that continues to oppress
Mhm.
the marginalized, and that can be done through intentional reflection, through continuous education, and also being active in our with what we say we're gonna do. If we want to see, be active. If we're gonna reflect, we must also acknowledge our own change, our own privilege. Are we a part of the flow that maintains system that oppress the marginalized? And if we're educating, are we actively learning too about historical context within our society, against groups that are historically being oppressed? Are we addressing then any perpetuated harm as leaders? And are we doing active resistance to bring about change so that those who are marginalized will not be pushed further to the edge of the margin, but they will be allowed to be a part of and to live and to enjoy the freedom like everyone else? I think leadership is and working from an anti-oppressive stance and a social justice perspective is really important for leaders in order for change and to advocate for policies that demand change to laws that perpetuate inequalities. And so it is important that we do that from an anti oppressive stance and a social
Absolutely.
justice perspective.
Definitely accountability for leaders is essential, and that
Hmm.
our own reflection, our own growth is going to help us get there. So I
Hmm.
wanted to just ask one last question. If people want to
Yes.
learn more about Dr. Hinds, where can they reach you? Any place they can find more information about you?
Well, I'm at Centennial College, and I think there's the school website has information about me as the professor and the program coordinator for the program. I am currently I currently have stuff on Amazon, and I one of my books that is out is called Unfolding Radiance, and I'm currently working on revising 2 chapters of my book. We have not fully laid them, but they can find me on the school website, and they can go on Amazon to see some of my stuff that are on Amazon.
And I encourage our listeners to do just that because I've only met Dr. Hinds once and I was in awe. And I look forward to our collaborations going forward. Dr.
Thank you
Hinds,
so much.
thank you so much for all you do in the education sector, but also as a prime example of a strong woman leader that really has brought so much to the sector and continues to do just that with each one of our students.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure being here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. Until next time.
You have been listening to Connect for Life, the podcast. Connect for Life is a Canadian-based registered charity committed to eliminating barriers for people with disabilities. Visit connectforlife.ca and join us in helping people with disabilities become the champions of their growth stories.